Welcome back to Holiday Hot Takes. Let's get to it. From Diet Co. Elite 2.0 does not deserve all the hate. For the average consumer, the blasters are perfectly fine. And from Feli Jishing. Elite 2.0 isn't actually that bad. The designs look cool and futuristic, and the grips aren't as bad as people say. Alright, Elite 2.0 supporters rise up. We're starting off with a hot take on a controversial blaster line. And you know what? I don't necessarily disagree. I was very much in a group of people outspoken about their initial release. I maintained that some of the blaster designs were pretty cool. The overall design, I did not hate it. What I didn't like was the quality of the plastic. Everything just felt like a downgrade from Elite. It was very obvious when you felt it, and that first wave of blasters was just noticeably problematic. You had the issues of significant cost cutting, and things just not working as desired. That did improve over time. I think that's important to note. And so I think a lot of the products now, while still not something that I would compare as favorably to like original Elite blasters, gosh, so many lines just start off on a really bad foot. Elite 2.0 just happened to launch like a slew of blasters, so they had a good chance, and some of them were okay. But man, did the bad ones really stick out. So I don't know how Hasbro keeps butchering these initial launches, but keep up the good work. Kaboom Does Stuff 7420. The Nerf Cam ECS 12 is underrated. Really cool looking and functioning blaster. You know what? At the time when it first came out, this would definitely be a hot take, but nowadays I don't think it's as hot. People have started to really latch on to that design, myself included. Maybe it took a little less time for me. I've been saying that the Cam ECS is a beautiful blaster and one of the best ones they've released, like looks-wise, for ages. Function-wise, I mean, that's where things start to fall apart. You know, it's a Strife with a longer barrel, so the performance kind of suffered. Not amazing, not terrible, but then the integrated camera, guys. You had to really cheap out on that one. I know at the time it was like something kind of cool and like, ooh, look, it's built into the blaster. It just did not work well. The price is also a factor here. Like the original price of that thing, was it $80, $70, something way too high. If people still dislike the Cam ECS, they are missing out on a beautiful piece. Dennis Byers 1784, lever action is fun but impractical. That is a hot take. I don't know if I agree with that. I think there are some situations where it can be perfectly practical. It really just makes or breaks whether like the lever action is smooth, comfortable, or it's like really clunky and you know, it's not reliable. So if it is, I don't see a real big problem with that. And if it's not, then I think that's what ruins it. Nick Price 2165, with one or two notable exceptions, something that Hasbro was pretty good at that hobby designers kind of suck at is coming up with helpful naming conventions for blasters. That's a hot take because I don't know if I agree with this one. The Ultra numbering scheme is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Dorado, Pharaoh. Plus there's like reusing old names. Does that count? I don't think that's very helpful when it comes to searching for new blasters or trying to find old ones. I don't know if any company is a shining example of what naming conventions should be. From Suze12, this hobby is way too US centric. Okay, well, we're gonna touch on a few of these types of comments, and I gotta say just up front, not my fault, not a lot of people's fault. It's just back to the companies, but let's go on. From DragoDu823, I think that the best of the Nerf hobby is being gatekept to the US. European Nerfers are neglected, in my opinion. And from BJibBanaz015, Nerf should make their products available in Asia shortly after they become available in the West. They are so many good stuff, but so difficult to get to our country. Okay, so sometimes, nowadays, I think we do see stuff being released in Europe or in Asia before it actually hits the States, which is funny, so congratulations. But I get it. I know there's a frustration for people who are looking in to the US or maybe even to Canada that like, oh, you guys get all the good stuff, like, oh, Dart Zone seems to really only be based in the US, why are you holding it for yourselves? And again, guys, it's I didn't choose this, the players here didn't choose this. Like, yeah, the business decisions are important, and obviously there's a lot of people in the US, so that's a very desirable market for us, but then the regulations in different countries, especially if they start in the US and they base all their products around our local laws, it's very difficult to then match up what works in the EU, what works in Asia. Just, it's so different. And I hate to say it, but Hasbro has been saying that that's one of the goals of N Series, is to be just so widely accepted into different countries that it makes that process easy and they don't have to jump through hoops of changing blaster designs or internals to comply with like local regulations. So you got to admit, at least they're trying. But yes, I do get it, and I do feel bad for people who will comment sometimes and be like, oh, I wish I could get that, I can't get that. And it's like, it's not our fault. Like, again, we would love everyone to be able to play with this stuff, but it's just a little tough. And like, I'm obviously making videos typically for a US audience, and I pay attention to things that usually will impact me. So I'm not as aware when it comes to overseas laws and regulations. And in a similar vein, we've got Steven Tan 2754. Nerf gray trigger 40 to 50 FPS should not be a thing. This is only a problem if you're not American. And the Glassman, gray trigger models should no longer be produced. Japan and Australia lifted those bans recently. So like, yeah, I have no idea that that was the case. If that's true, I mean, cold take in my opinion, yeah, get rid of the gray triggers. We don't need to have the super low powered blasters that exist. I think maybe some people might be interested in lower tuned blasters of models that they like. But yeah, I would love for everywhere across the world to get the exact same performance blasters. It's just that obviously it doesn't work like that all the time. Has that only been something though that Hasbro has taken on? Because I can't think of another toy company for like foam dart blasters that has made lower powered versions in like those stores. It's just, it exists or it doesn't exist. So again, like, can we give Hasbro credit for trying to spread like their toys across the world? I don't know, man. Cappy Copper 6711. If the blaster's color scheme already has a bright color, the tip of the barrel should match it. Stop using orange when red is better suited. Well, that's a hot take, and I'm going to assume, based off of your spelling of color, that indicates you are not in the US. I know when it comes to people making their own blasters, sometimes they'll put different colored tips on the front, like a bright yellow, or a green, or a red. Like, yes, you can get away with it, but like, here in the States, it's just best practice. It's just do what you can to the bare minimum. I know that people will complain about this sometimes, but like, just do the bare minimum to be safe. And I know also that that's not necessarily going to keep it safe, because some things will still look too realistic. If you're going outside, you're going to an event, follow their laws, but just at the bare minimum, you know it's best practice. Put a little orange tip on the front, and we will probably be able to avoid some uncomfortable conversations at the very least.